these, all of the animals at any given time during the day could have access to almost any of the 3 exhibit yards, the 2 off-exhibit yards, and our 10,000 square feet of holding space that we have behind the scenes. So it's a really innovative way of looking at how to display animals. And it also allows us to enrich their lives because mortal enemies might come upon the same space of land at different times during the day, of course. We're not going to put them out there at the same time, but if you were a lion and you were to happen upon a piece of land that a hyena had very recently been on, you'd have a lot of work to do to make sure that was your land again. And that's what you see with some of our animals also. But besides that enrichment component, we have a very strong training component in this area as well, and that's what we really want to talk about today. The training program at Denver Zoo is a program. It has a framework to it. We have very specific priorities and goals for our program, and a lot of the goals are based on husbandry behaviors, the behaviors that allow us to care for our animals. So that's what we hope to show you today. And we're going to start out with one of our African lions. Yeah, I hear her knocking at the door, so we'll let her. The lion joining us is Natal, and Natal is a 300-pound South African lion. She is about 11 years old, and I'm going to explain some of the things you're seeing today. We use positive reinforcement-based training, which means every time Natal does something we like, we give her something she likes, and that happens to be her meat. You're also going to hear a sound that Laura's using. We use a whistle with these animals. That's a marker that we use to tell the animal that what they did was correct, and that reinforcement is coming. Some of the behaviors you're going to see, you probably heard her whistle and you say, well, what's she whistling for? That's actually a behavior we call focus. We just ask the animal to pay attention to us. So if they look at us, they might get a whistle. Other behaviors you're going to see are some of the behaviors you might think, well, gosh, I might train that with my dog at home. Things like down that you just saw, or even a sit behavior. While those behaviors might seem like something that you might train your dog, we also like to use those behaviors here as well. Not only do they help the animals focus on us, but they allow us to get different looks at different parts of their body. And by training these animals, that's a great opportunity for us to take a look at them. That behavior is what we call side. That behavior allows us to get access to the animal's hip, and in that position, we can give vaccinations to any of the animals here at Predator Ridge. So you can see how important those husbandry behaviors are. You imagine if you want to bring your cat to the vet, sometimes that can be very difficult. Imagine if you wanted to bring a 300-pound lion to the vet. Not always the easiest thing to do. The next behavior you saw was stand. That behavior gives us visual access to the bellies. This is a breeding pride of lions. All 3 of our females have successfully reproduced, and when we can take a look at their bellies, it helps us monitor pregnancies. Right position not only gives us access to that hip again, also gives us access to that tail. We can actually ask the animals for tail. They'll put their tail out underneath the bottom of that mesh, and in that position, we can draw blood on our lions. Right? So the husbandry behaviors, like I said, help us take care of our animals on a daily basis. Some of the ones you don't always see are something as simple as shifting on and off exhibit. If you just want an animal to move in different directions, that's something we might train as well. Now you saw stand earlier. We showed you how tall she was, but if you probably noticed in that other position, we couldn't get access to their paws because they are so tall. So they have a second behavior our lions do called paws, so that we can have access to their paws as well. All of those behaviors that you have seen have a tactile component. In other words, we can touch them. We usually touch them with some sort of tool, like a syringe or a back scratcher. The reason we want to have a tactile component is if we ever wanted to treat any wounds or anything like that on our animals, we want to make sure we can touch them as well. So for instance, in that paws behavior, if they had a cracked pad or anything like that, we could put medication on their pad. And also in some of these behaviors, we're working on things like ultrasound. Ultrasound is a behavior we usually do in the back, but it is a behavior that we can do with our animals. I do want to talk a little bit about the way we train our animals. We use a process called operant conditioning, and very simply that means that it's a type of learning in which the animal operates on their environment. They make choices, and they receive a consequence from their environment. We try to provide those positive consequences. Every time they make a choice we like, we provide a consequence that they like, and hopefully they choose to do that again. The great thing about operant conditioning is it allows the animal to make choices, and it gives them power in their environment. She gets to decide whether she wanted to come in that door tonight and actually work with Laura in front of you. She also gets to decide if she wants to respond to the individual cues.
On cue.
On cue as well. demeanor in front of you guys, right? This is another behavior we have. Sending an animal away, if anyone has trained animals out here, you know, sending an animal away can be a very difficult behavior. So that's also something that we work with our animals as well. The reason we train this one in particular in this area is to show you that we can weigh our animals. When that is centered and we have our scale on, we actually have a little bit of a glitch with our scale, otherwise we would have that on, we can show you how much she weighs. But we can have her station up on that little bench right there, and then in that position we can get a nice solid weight on her as well. And that is really fun when our scale's working, we have kids up here, so they all get to guess how much the lion weighs.